Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday show. Hopefully you are doing okay. Hopefully you're not trying to cough on yourself like I am. Jeez, that's always fun. Let's start and have that problem. Oh my God. Anyways, let me flip over here and say welcome to the Break the Cycle with DSD show. I am your host, Duane. I am not a therapist. I'm an individual much like you who is went through a difficult experience and as a result of that developed some techniques that I use to basically get my life back that I share with you to help you do the same. Break that cycle of toxic abuse, and if you have kids, strengthen and rebuild the relationship you have with your kids. Minimize the damage. Remember, only a licensed professional can diagnose an individual with a personality disorder. So leave those terms to the professionals. Unless you're in a closed environment or talking to somebody that you super trust, just be careful. You don't want to hurt your own credibility by going around diagnosing your ex or people with personality disorders, because it tends to erode our own credibility. If you like what's going on here, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell notification. So hopefully YouTube will tell you what's going on, but you can also support by becoming a channel member by going over to youtube.com/dadsurvivingdivorce, looking for that join button, looking at the different tiers. And when you do that, you get special badges, custom emojis, your name listed in the credits, and access to member only events, which there is one coming up this weekend. So check that out. If you want to get a text notification when this show goes live, just text DSD Live to 844-598-0012, 844-598-0012. And speaking of phone numbers, you can also call in to participate in today's show if it's live and you're not listening to the replay or the podcast. And you can do that by dialing 1-424-373-5483, 1-424-DSD-LIVE. Now, for those people who are listening to this on the replay or on the podcast, and you want to get your question in or you want to participate but you can't whenever we're live, you can still call that number, leave a message, and I can play it during the show and answer your question then. So that is also an option. So how are you guys doing today? Let's see. I moved my windows around hoping that maybe it might make things work better for me today. Again, it's good to start the day off with some coffee. I have a topic I'm going to get to in a moment, but let me just double check where we're at, make sure everything is working correctly. Excuse me. All right. If you guys have a question for me, I just want to say this in the live chat. Do the @DSD tag thing and just put a Q and a colon or a Q and a dash just to kind of denote it as a question. It'll make it easier for me to try to discern exactly what's going on. So, all right, I'm just looking at the chat here for a moment. All right, I'm going to just jump into this. This actually, I had some coaching calls yesterday, and I'll just to throw that out there. If you're looking to get with me and actually talk with me, I mean, you can do the Discord, you can do email and stuff, but if you really need answers, then the best thing is just to book time. And I know that, there's money involved in that and everything, but I mean, that is the way to really make sure you get my undivided attention. It's really difficult for me to one-off. Every once in a while, things will happen where I'll be able to get with somebody offline on one of the different platforms. But, as things ramp up and work ramps up, it makes it a lot more complicated. And as things are progressing, my schedule is just getting more and more packed. So anyway, this did kind of come out of some of the calls I had yesterday. It was a trend through a bunch of different people, and and this is trusting your gut and really reading the signs of what's going on. And I know that can sound, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, I know that can sound just kind of like, oh yeah, that's, of course, trust your gut. But it really is true. And there's nuances in it that are tough, because as in I'll go through this when the last item on it is where you really have to discern what you're actually seeing and feeling. And what I mean by this is, first of all, we often get into the mode where we second guess everything. We second guess reality. You're making excuses. You're looking at a situation and it's like, it doesn't feel right. Your gut's telling you that it's wrong, but you don't want to believe it. It doesn't fit the reality that you want to believe, so you ignore it. What'll often happen is once you're done in this situation, or once you're, I don't know, done's not the right word, but once you've gone through one of these experiences, you're out of the narcissistic fog, the veil has been lifted, and you start looking back, you're like, holy crap, the signs were all there. And I can look at my own situation, and what I just said is true. And when I first had that epiphany, it was like, oh my God, I saw this when we were dating. I saw this when I joined the military and we were only conversing remotely. I mean, there were multiple times where my gut was screaming at me that you're making a mistake. But I wanted the fantasy, I wanted the love bomb. I wanted all the what wasn't real, or what I thought, but basically what I thought was real, that all the warning signs I just shut off. It's like if you turn around and you're like, okay, well, I guess another analogy would be like this. You're driving your car and the check engine light comes on and you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this right now. It's running fine, and then someone tells you, hey man, you got like black smoke coming out your car. And you're like, and you don't want to deal with it. So you just keep letting it go. Now, and this actually is not a bad analogy, because the longer you let something go, the worse it gets. It's like, hey, the indicator comes on to tell you something's wrong. You ignore it. Then some other light maybe pops on. You ignore that. And by the time you get to the point where it really where it's like you can't ignore it anymore, it's a complete colossal disaster. And typically, the pain, we'll talk about the pocketbook pain on that, not necessarily emotional pain, but with the car analogy, that it just gets worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, we get into this mode where you want to believe what you think is real instead of what is real. And you have to look at those signs. You have to look at the reality of what's actually going on. Now, here's the thing. When you're in a situation where you have a person who is love bombing you, mirroring you, is laser-like focused on what makes you tick, and is drip feeding you all those things that you're looking for, it's really hard to look away from that. We all want the perfect person. We all want the person who compliments. I'll say compliments us instead of completes us, but somebody who really gets, somebody who gets you, who understands you, who likes what you like, who you can look at and go, all right, here's a person that we can team together to build a life, and we have the same basic interests and the same basic philosophy, and you build this illusion up in your head and in your heart that you ignore the signs. Now let me just be clear. There's a possibility that you can meet somebody that does hit those things, and it's real. But the thing is there's ways to figure that out. There's ways to discern what's real, what's in reality, and what is fake. The problem is when you have a problem with your self-worth, with boundaries, with being able to self-validate yourself, which basically falls in with your self-worth, it makes it really tough. Because if you're looking for that perfect puzzle piece to fit right in with you and make your I keep going back to the car analogy, your engine run smooth, you really want that. But it can make you blind to what's really going on. And to a T, I will say that it's from person after person after person that I've spoke to, that I've coached, that I've interacted with email, the reoccurring trend, especially when they're outside of this, is they saw the signs. It didn't feel right. Maybe even people that they knew in their lives said, man, do you really want to do that? Is she or is he really who you're going to, hitch your wagon to, so to speak? It's just really hard to see it whenever you're in the moment. Here's the deal. When your intuition or your gut is telling you something is wrong, you have to believe it. At the very least, you have to investigate it. You have to say, this doesn't feel right. Let me, flip over the rug to see what's underneath there. The sad part is, and this is, I'm thinking about this right now, and I know how I fell into this back in the early days. The problem is you get to the point where you're like, oh crap. What if I don't like what I see when I flip it over? My gut's telling me this is wrong. And if I investigate and I prove to myself it is wrong, then I'm going to lose this. And the sad part is, it would have been so much easier for all of us to figure that out early on and say, oh crap, no, this isn't right. Maybe this person is somebody that could be a friend, but they're not somebody that should be the friend that's in my inner circle. They're not somebody that deserves to be in a romantic relationship with me. The reality is, we have to work on ourselves. We have to put the time in to where it's easier for us to trust our intuition, that we don't need some external person to make our life happy. We make our life happy. You make your own life happy. It's not dependent upon another person. Another person can help complement your life, and another person can destroy your life. But don't give your power away. And when you do work on yourself and you spend that time, it's so much easier to trust your intuition, your gut, your heart, which is like the best defense or the best barricade to protect yourself from these situations. And the last thing I'll just say on this is that just because you've been going down a path for a year, for 5 years, for 10 years, for two decades, doesn't mean you have to keep going the same way. You can easily get into that mode where you're like, well, this is the way I picked to go. This is the way I'm going. This is just my life. No. We all have the opportunity every day that we get up to say, okay, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to improve my life. I'm going to not live in this shadow of chaos any longer. And that is my rant for this morning. Trust your gut, guys. Trust your intuition. It's there, and it's just hard to hear sometimes, even when it's screaming at you. So let's see here. I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger. Oh crap, I hit the wrong button. I don't know what I just did. That's what happens whenever I I'm not paying attention or not have my keyboard pushed up. Moderator Debbie has some comments here highlighted, so let me see what's going on. Yeah, let me grab this. Where is your comment, T Solo, so I can highlight it? So it says, my ex last night said to my daughter when I picked her up for our 14-year-old. I'm sorry, I'm assuming you're saying your 14-year-old daughter. Basically, it looks like your ex said to your daughter when you picked her up that, quote, I wish you didn't have to go back and forth. Should I ignore this? We have 50-50. If you're saying, should you ignore it with the ex, you could. All right. So if you want to, you could send her a note, or you could say, hey, pumpkin, that's really inappropriate to say around our children. You know, is it going to change anything? Nope. The worry you have, actually, I'm really surprised she's doing that in front of you, because that's actually pretty inappropriate. And typically they will be less obvious that they're doing it. The reality is, it depends on how it's affecting your 14-year-old daughter. If she's now saying, yeah, it's so confusing going back and forth. Mine actually did do this but our schedule was that stupid 2-2-4. So every Monday and Tuesday they were with mom, every Wednesday and Thursday they were with me, and then they rotated weekends. That was kind of a pain. But I mean, we did it for 8.5 years, or 9 years maybe. I'm trying to remember the schedule, but you know, so for basically 8 years, it wasn't until we switched to week to week as a result of COVID. So if you're seeing an issue with your daughter, then you need to address it with your daughter. If your daughter's not being influenced by it, then I wouldn't engage on it, because it's not accomplishing anything. Just be very aware of what's going on, and just keep your eyes open. You know what? I have a caller who says that it says check mark current topic. So let me go to area code 678. Hello and welcome to the show.
Duane, how you doing?
Good. How you doing today?
Good. Techmore.
What's going on, Techmore?
I'm good, man. Hey, just a quick thing. So late last night, I have other feeds that I watch, and it's just been a guest you could possibly get on based on some of the topics you're talking about. It's a lady you had on before. I think she's a lawyer out of Arizona called Command the Courtroom.
Oh yeah. Wendy Hernandez.
And, yeah, and she had someone on, and I didn't get a chance to watch all of it. I just got busy. But she had an interesting guest on called Epstein, YITZ, then Epstein, EPSTIEN.
Yeah, I've
probably
heard
no
about
relation
that.
to the infamous Epstein. But it's pretty interesting because he, again, I'm always pinging you. I'm like, hey, solutions, you know. And I didn't see the whole show. You know, I think it's like an hour. But they kind of, and I was kind of surprised by this, but it was more along the lines of, and we've talked about this before, is that stuff that doesn't really pertain. It's more like, well, I can't get over my ex, and I'm so concerned about my ex. And for people like you and me and others, because I always cheer when you're like, I don't care about my ex. I mean, you know, it's like the whole black hole thinking. But
yeah.
I haven't watched the whole show. But anyway, I was hoping they would have gone into like, hey, I have 50-50, and I have to deal with this person. I can't stand him or her or whatever. And I have a child. How do you negotiate that with the constant, you know, the false allegations, the no accountability, the this and this and this and this and this? And I don't know if they talked about it, but anyway, I was thinking if you put him on your show, obviously that we'd cut right to the chase within like 5 minutes, you know. So it was just
I'll add that to the list and start seeing if I can coordinate that. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. I'm always trying to help out the community because it's, you know, like I've said before, you're the only really show or only really person out there that busy like all of us, it takes an hour out of your day that, it kind of focuses on like how to navigate this versus pining over the ex, trying to get legislation changed, which would be good. But I hope Mark and the guys I know are going to do that. But for people that, they have a 50-50, we're juggling businesses and all this other stuff. We don't have a lot of time. Just how to I got 11 years to deal with this individual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
exactly.
So anyway, it's just a solution topic type thing. That's all.
Yeah. No, cool. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling, man. I appreciate it.
Cool, Duane. You bet. Later, man. Bye.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a way to make sure I hear something. There's two ways. You can call in or a super chat. That does a pretty good job of making things light up over here as well. But on that, let me go back through because there were some other things. Okay, I'm not going to do that one. Let's see. Just goes on with what I was saying before. Bears has said, I saw many signs that they increasingly became more blatant. They were many exit opportunities that I rejected. See, that's a good way. That's spot on. I mean, that's kind of what I was saying with the car thing. It's like, the alarms keep going off. Things keep not changing, but things keep trying to let us know what is really going on and how we need to adjust what we're doing. Whoops, hold on. Oh, that's not going to work. I'm trying to make windows around so I can see things. Well, who wants to be able to see things? That just doesn't make it easy. Oh shit, let me see if I can find this one. Where Shell the Crab says, have mediation soon. I have requested that it is conducted with us in separate virtual rooms to avoid risk of emotional triggering and stay on track. Mediator attempted to influence me against this. Yeah, I think the problem is because, and remember, a lot of people don't understand the effects of this type of thing. And they think that you're blowing it out of proportion. So I can see why the mediator wants you both in the same room to be able to read the cues and not basically playing the telephone game, going back and forth. So see, here's the problem. First, let me just say this. I get what you're saying. When I had to be around the ex, especially in the early days, it gave me nothing but panic attacks. To the point that when we actually went to our first and only mediation meeting that we were forced to go to, we went into the room, and then when they put us outside, they had two chairs right next to each other, next to the door. Their kids went in because the mediator wanted to talk to the children. And I literally moved my chair to the other side just so there was room. And partly that was because of all the allegations that the ex was saying. This is what doesn't make any sense. The ex was trying to say that I was angry, that I was abusive, that I was violent, but she could sit right next to me and be friendly. It's like, I mean, I wanted to be away from her. I didn't trust her. So I would have wanted the same thing. I mean, I think the one nice thing about COVID right now, if you could call it that, is that a lot of these meetings are through Zoom. So you physically don't have to be in the same room with the person. So, but anyways, I mean, you put it out there, you ask the question. They're probably not really set up for that. That's normally not how mediation goes. So they may not even have the facilities for it. And just be cautious. I mean, if you can't get around that, which if you're doing it in person, you probably won't be able to, then just go in with what you're going for. Throw it out there. I want this. They're going to say they want that. If there's no wiggle room to get close to an agreement, then the mediation's over. You at least need to, at least in good faith, attempt it, though. If you have an attorney, just double check with them to make sure what can and cannot be used against you out of the mediation. So, all right, let me look and see what else is going on. Okay, I've caught up with what moderator Debbie has sent to me. So let me see what else is going on in the conversation. So, Lee says, and haven't seen you around in a while, Lee. Good to see you back. In a mediation meeting with my ex, the mediator wanted us to both to say something nice about the other person. After that, we've been getting along well. I think me saying something nice about her helped. Huh. As I was reading that, I wasn't sure where that was going to go. And that was not. So, Lee, let me ask you this, man. How long ago was that? And how have things been since? And one of the caveats that I'll say on that, and I've heard people having various degrees of success with that type of approach. I'll say approach. And that's, if you can scratch the itch of a narcissist, you can give them a little bit of supply. Sometimes they calm down. Now, to be, perfectly honest, I have never been able to do that. When the mask fell, when the fog lifted, and I realized that 2 decades of my life had been spent living a fantasy life, I was a little frustrated, to say the least. And giving the ex any more attention, supply, I didn't know about supply at the time, was just something I refused to do. So I can't tell you, had I had and I don't know, today I might have tried different things. I might have been able to understand, today there's been so much time, so I understand what I'm dealing with. I understand the behavioral patterns, and I'm more distance or separated from the pain and the hurt. I guess technically it's still there, but the reality is that maybe had I tried that type of technique, maybe it would have worked for me. Because every time I would try to interact with the ex in the early days of this, it was all based on wanting some type of accountability, some type of acknowledgement, an apology, something, and she would refuse to do that. Which, that's the way she's always been. In my situation, the ex is super stubborn. I know I've mentioned to you guys, and I've said this to other people as well. If I had said to her, "Hey, pumpkin, the house is on fire, we need to leave," her response typically would have been, "You don't tell me what to do. I'm not leaving. I'll leave when I'm ready to leave." Obviously, I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but that is how it felt. Let me see if Lee said anything else. I like this. Merge says, "Lee, want to swap exes? Sounds like a dream." Yeah, and the reality is it depends. Okay, let me clarify this. The reality is it depends on what is the motivation of your ex. If all they want is you to pat them on the head and be nice to them, then yeah, you could have that type of situation. If they want to be the victim, you to be the enemy, and their supply has nothing to do with you. It's how everyone else treats them and gives them, oh, you poor thing, oh, can I come help you? Can I, can I come fix something for you? Here, that type of thing. Then you're screwed. Then there's nothing you're going to be able to do. And even if you tried to do something like that, it's going to just backfire because that's not what their motivation is. But I can honestly say that I didn't necessarily try that. Well, maybe I'm, you know what? Let me back up. I'm trying to think. I don't think the mediator did it, but the custody evaluator might. When they were doing the evaluation, they might have said, well, that what might have been one of the questions of what's a positive from the ex. And I would have said back then, I would have said, she likes to cook. Which I guess technically, I don't know what you said nice about your ex, Lee, but hey, you know what? The thing is that whatever any one of us can do to turn the tide on this, to get our lives to calm the hell down, is incredibly helpful. Hold on, I think I see Lee just said something. So he says, to be fair, we also haven't had that much to argue about. If I wouldn't try to go from weekend to 50-50, I'm sure we would be, oh, wait a minute. If I would try to go from weekends to 50-50, I'm sure we'd be arguing again. But right now I live, well, okay. See, then you're basically giving her what the solution she wanted, right? So if you basically said, yeah, I'll be the weekend dad. And hey, dude, there's nothing wrong. If that's what works for you and that's what you can do, that's fine. Obviously, I mean, sometimes the reality is it's just 50-50 doesn't work. And if you've made your peace with that, or if that works for you, that's okay. So, I mean, in some ways, maybe depending on how much of a nasty ex you're dealing with, if they just are like, okay, fine, you're the built-in babysitter so that they have every other weekend to themselves, then maybe you're not going to have them trying to undermine you from, day one. So, all right, let me grab this one. Shell, it said, mediators have confirmed they can facilitate separate, let me try that again. They can facilitate separate virtual rooms, but emphasized has to be agreed to by both. And it said it reduces chances of resolution if only they understood. Yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. So I guess the thing is you throw it out there, and if your ex agrees with it, then at least you have that going on for you. So our brand, thank you, sir, with the super chat, says my narc ex took compliments as weakness and a twisted way for her to validate the evil she's done. Oh my God. That doesn't surprise me, man. I think the thing is, you've heard me talk about fly, fix, fly. Try something. If it works, if you're able to have a resolution like Lee was talking about, outstanding. If you're like the 90 or 80% of the rest of us, where it's used against you, like our brand is discussing, then just realize you don't need to do that anymore. I guess I shouldn't laugh, but I don't know how many times we would get to this point where it's like, okay, it seemed like things would calm down. And it's like, oh, thank God. All right, she's going to be a human. And I would lower my defenses. I would try to kind of like go back to my normal thing. And the second that she felt that things had gone back to quote unquote normal, she would jab me. I mean, she would go, boop. Actually, it was more like, boop, 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 boop. Just freaking in my eye. I did that. I went back to the trough a few times on that, hoping that maybe this would be the time. But after a while, it just got, okay, this person is not going to change. It's not going to get any better. I can't keep doing this to myself. And I stop. I was having a conversation with my youngest, my 15-year-old, and we were talking about the schedule, switching to, week on, week off. Because she had actually asked for that, my youngest, years before. But the problem is I finally got to the point where I'm like, look, I am so sick of trying to discuss something with your mom just for her to say no because she has the power of the NO. And the kids don't understand it. And the only reason that she agreed, I think, is that the kids were saying, yeah, and when I say kids, I mean the 15-year-old and the 21-year-old, because he still transitions. I'll make a video about that some other day, where they both wanted to do that. So, and actually the way that transpired is we were sitting out doing our social distancing visit in the driveway of my house because the kids were here. And I think I brought up, hey, it looks like a situation to where we can start going back and forth between the houses. Why don't we do week on, week off? And I remember I said I wanted to do Monday to Monday. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if school did go back in session, at least the transitions I don't have to be anywhere near her. And the kids are like, no, we want it Sunday to Sunday. And I'm like, oh my God. Now it's like every weekend I have to be back here at 6 on Sunday. But for the kids, it was like, well, it's easier to transfer our stuff back and forth whenever we're not going to school, or like for my son to, if he went to college that day on the bus and then have to come. It's just, I get the reasoning. I agreed with it. I'm glad I did because, to be honest, it's definitely made my life easier just being week on, week off. But to roll this back, when I was talking to my daughter, she's like, well, I've been trying to get you guys to do it forever. And I'm like, it's frustrating because it's like this stupid freaking stalemate. And who knows, maybe at that time, had I asked the question way back, a few years ago, maybe the ex would have said yes. But the ex was not going to instigate it. The ex was not going to ask the question of me. That's what I told my daughter. I said, I don't care. If you want to go week on, week off, or week to week, I have no problem with it. Just get your mom to ask. Now, granted, I'm putting the child in the middle, but this is after years of me trying. What would happen is, and a typical scenario would be something would come up. My youngest would come up to me and say, Daddy, I want to do this event at school on mommy's day. Can you make it happen? I'm like, all right, you really want to do it? Yeah. So I would, clickety clack, dear Satan, child would like to be a part of this event. Can I pick them up, yada, yada. Typically what would happen is either it would come back NO. I mean, that's all I would get. I would get reply, capital letters, no. Or what would happen is they would wait. The ex would wait. This is the one I can remember the most was it was a after school program or summer program. That's what it was. It was summer camp. They were going to go someplace super cool. I don't know, like the planetarium down in LA or something. I don't remember where it was. Hey, daughter wants to do this. And I'm waiting for an answer. And at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning of the day I would have had to have done it, I get an email. Oh, thank you for your interest, but we have other plans. Then later, I'm like, ask my youngest. It's like, hey, What happened? Oh, we went to the library. So, I mean, it just got to the point where it's like, that's what I told my youngest. It's like, look, every time you say you want to do something with me, I stick my neck out, I get slammed down, then you say you don't want to do it, or you say you want to do something different, and I'm tired of it. I'm not going to do it anymore. The problem is that in those situations, it gets so damn triggering that it makes it super tough because it's not simple, right? I mean, it's not like one of those things where, hey, it's no big deal. Let me just ask the question. It brings up all the other emotions. It's not just, oh, hey, oh man, that would have been great, but we already had plans, right? It's not that. I mean, if I would have sent the thing and it was like, oh crap, we've been planning this thing. I told everyone they were going to be there. Our kid was going to be there. Let me check, or man, it just isn't going to work. Okay, fine. But this like, okay, let me hold it and not say anything and wait till the last second to where even if the answer was yes, so that's the thing. I mean, it's like, it was maximized my stress and anxiety, not knowing, do I have to get up early? Do I have to get the kid? Do I need to take the day off? I mean, you're sitting there in this limbo state. And then at the last second, they say whatever the answer is going to be. So that's why I wouldn't, when it came to that, I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to do it. I refuse, anyways. All right. I'm going to go to, there's another caller, area code 704. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good. First, I just wanted to thank you for the service you provide.
Well, thanks.
I think, you're definitely an example of taking your pain and making it a great example for me to try to help other people through this process. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my question has to deal with, I've been divorced almost 3 years now. Things are on, I guess, pretty amicable terms. I mean, we don't really talk except about the logistics with the kids. I have 50% custody, 2 boys.
Did you say 15 or 50?
50%.
50, okay.
50.
Okay.
One week on, 1 week on, 1 week on, 1 week off. And I remember in one of your streams, you had talked about the day of transition.
Yeah.
Don't try to expect too much, and just to kind of lay low, which was very helpful advice. My thing is, my ex-wife is very manipulative, especially with the kids. And I heard you talking about with Debbie, every time you guys would do an activity that was really fun, and they would come back to you a week later and suddenly they didn't like the activity.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, especially in times of COVID, when we're all kind of together, my oldest son's really kind of disengaged from me, but especially when he comes back from his mom's, the first few days are always a tough transition. And, he talks a lot about, he just doesn't really want to ever hang out with me anymore.
How old is he?
Would rather, he's going to be 15. So I know a lot of that might be his age
right.
as well. I'm just wondering, I know you have a couple of older kids, I don't want to pressure them too much with trying to do things. For example, this sounds pretty dumb, but, I had asked my older son if he wanted to watch the new Borat movie, and we had talked about that, and he said no, he wasn't going to watch it, or maybe he'd watch it next time, but then he wound up watching it with his mom. So sometimes just like little things like that come up where chooses to do activities with her, and I don't want him to have to choose between us and make it like a competition.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess my question is just kind of managing the time I have with him, and at dealing with more. My ex is much more of a covert manipulator than overt.
So what I would say on that is, I mean, one, like the whole thing with the movie, not wanting to watch it with you and watching it with the ex. This is where that black hole thinking really needs to come in. That comes into play, because whatever they do at the other house needs to be like, you just need to just basically ignore it and just not even look at it. And not, I mean, unless he comes back and goes, oh yeah, I didn't want to watch the movie with you, but I watched it with mommy, and man, that was funny. That would be annoying if he was doing that. But I mean, I wouldn't be asking the question like, hey, did you ever see that movie or anything like that? And I used to do stuff like that because it was just like, I just wanted to feel the pain, it seemed like. The second part on that, I mean, one part of what you're talking about is a little bit age related. Like my current 15-year-old does stuff like that. It's like, we'll hide out in their room and just be completely disconnected from everybody. But then there's still things that we do. Either we'll make dinner together, or, they'll come out and if I'm doing something, just work on her art next to me or something. Or a lot of times what my kids typically like to do, especially the girls, is just to go on a trip, like to go to the store, just it's like, hey, I'm going to go to the grocery store. Do you want to go? And, like for 80% of the time, the answer will be yes. Sometimes the answer is no. And I guess what I'm saying is just try to find something that you can connect with your son with. And it doesn't, all it has to be is something where you're spending time together, right? Where you can actually just talk or shoot the crap, that type of thing. And as long as you're not seeing a complete degradation where it's like, I hate you, Dad, you're the worst dad ever. And let me break your stuff in your house just to try to make your life miserable. If you're not dealing with it with that regard, then be cautious on how you look at it. I know the problem is it's so easy. Well, let me say this. The likelihood that your covert narcissistic ex-wife is incepting ideas into your son's head that are making things complicated. Yeah, that's absolutely happening, right? But if we respond that way, all we're going to do is make it worse, right? We're going to almost make it come true. So you have to be really careful about that, because you can find yourself in a situation where you're actually actively helping to undermine and alienate your child against yourself just by the subtle things that the ex is doing with how our response is, and how it basically, cause see this, let me just reword this a different way. What ends up happening is your ex is trying to basically paint a picture of how you are, probably covertly, right? Not overtly, not saying, hey, your dad does X, but it's just planting that seed of doubt. And then if you start doing that same behavior, then the kid starts thinking that what they're being told is true. So, I guess that the short version is just try to find something else that you guys can do together that your son likes to do, that you can both do. If that's camping, if that's going to GameStop to look at the new games. I don't even know if you can go to a GameStop anymore right now with COVID and everything, but find something that he wants to do. If he's into skateboarding and there's a skateboard shop, go there and talk about that, and let him talk about whatever interests him, right? Just give him your attention and see if that makes a bit of a change. Typically it will. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What would you say, maybe you've discussed this before on the show and I haven't heard it. How is your relationship like now with your older children that they're out of the house?
It's good. My like I mentioned earlier, the 21-year-old still goes back and forth, which is weird, but probably that's more on me now, just because things got so bad when he was in high school that I had mentally prepared myself for him to live here full time, but it turned into such a crap show that the transition thing just worked better, basically better for me. But I have a good relationship with him. My 19-year-old daughter, she's I would say she's on team mom because she won't ever come over here and she follows a lot of her same traits of her mom. But I talk to her. She calls me if she has a problem. She'll ask me how. I mean, it's not one of those things where if I called her right now, she wasn't in school. I mean, if she was, well, okay, it's early, so she probably wouldn't answer. But if I tried to call her at 10 o'clock, as long as she's not in class, she'll answer the phone and we'll have a conversation, right? It's not one of those things to where she's ignoring me, that she won't ever respond to me. She texts me every once in a while. So, I mean, I think that even though it's not probably the way I would have liked it, it's still not a bad relationship. And with the 15-year-old, it's she's 15 and going through her own issues. But at the same time, I mean, all indications are that we still have a strong relationship. I mean, she still wants to do the camping thing with me and well, not so much now because it's cold and, the days are shorter, but I mean, it's like there's still a connection there. So that's what I just focus on the little victories and the positives and just keep leveraging that instead of focusing. And it'd be so easy for every one of my kids to focus on the negative and really highlight that. And that would erode the relationship I have with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was pretty illuminating when you had your, I don't know if she's your new wife or your girlfriend, but talking about that dynamic. And do you feel that that relationship helped your relationship with the kids? Sometimes you hear about new spouses hurting it. I mean, in my case, with my fiance, I feel it's actually helped the relationship with my kids because they get to see what a healthy relationship looks like. Usually you hear about the opposite, that step-parents hurt the relationship.
It's been a back and yeah, I would say it's been a back and forth. I mean, sometimes it's probably like 50-50, right? I mean, because the triangulation is key or is significant. So that has created problems. And I mean, and that's probably that's kind of one of the main reasons. Well, no, I would say the main reason we don't live together. It's so technically Debbie's my girlfriend. We're not married and we don't live together. And the main reason we don't live together is money, right? We can't, it's because of the situation. We can't, she can't move here and I can't move there. And we don't have enough money to consolidate and move into another place. And there's a lot of nuances that complicate that. So that's kind of forced a situation to where we are in this separate place thing. I think in some ways that's helped has been helpful because it makes the triangulation less because it's not, Debbie's not always here. So, I mean, if you're in a situation where your ex hasn't started targeting your fiance, you said, whatever, your new relationship, then you're, yeah, that's great. I mean, that's awesome that she's not doing that. But I mean, it's a risk, and probably most of the time it goes to where it actually creates more of a problem. So, but again, it also depends on how you respond to it, right? I mean, if your new relationship is taking all the time and your kids feel like you're abandoning them for the new wife or the new girlfriend, that can create a problem because the kids are already feeling stressed about it. They feel unsure with it. And it doesn't take, for a covert, toxic, narcissistic piece of garbage human to play on those fears with a child is super easy to do. So like in my situation, I've always made a point that even though, if Debbie was here, we were doing something together, that I'm still trying to give attention to the kids. I mean, one of the examples we use is when we would go to a movie, we would just say, okay, I would sit next to my two girls. And so it would be like, Debbie, one of the girls, me, one of the girls, and then my son on, one, depending where it is. And that's kind of the way we would do it. And it was kind of weird. It was kind of annoying, but it was one of those decisions where it's like, is it worth the risk to really drive a wedge? And we made those type of decisions to try to mitigate that. Hopefully you don't have to do that because it was a pain. It wasn't fun. So.
Yeah. No, it's been, I waited a year, which was helpful. So
Good.
but I know you're running out of time. But I wanted to stress that I think it's really admirable that you took one of the worst things that can happen to somebody and turned it into a positive. And I think it's an example for your listeners too, that sometimes the worst things that can happen to us, there can be a silver lining.
Yeah, very true. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call. Yeah, it's funny he says that, because that's one of the things that I'm really grateful for, is to be able to turn something that was so traumatic, so devastating, into something positive, something that's enhanced my life, that's actually also enhancing or helping other people. It's outstanding. All right, let me see. We are kind of running out of time, but let me see. Moderator Debbie posted a couple of extra things. Oh, I wish I would have saw that. But I'll mention this. Let me see if I can find this. Where did Merge say this? Where is that? There it is. It says, so Merge had asked, is the gent a strict dad? Are the rules in each home different? Is mom undermining his parenting in other ways? Natural is to love both parents. Yeah. And that brings up a good point, guys. If your parenting style is diametrically opposed to your ex's, that's going to make transition day more complicated. And you're going to have to pick your battles with your kids. I had to do this myself, because I knew that if I parented the way I thought, which I would have been I would have fallen into the strict dad category. I knew that I would have completely eroded my relationship with the kids. And the ex was leveraging off of that, expecting me to do that. And it was a struggle. It was a big struggle to not do that. Let me see if I can find this other comment that was. Bold says, have an instant where person is using our family wizard to post false statements after and during every visit. What to do, posting false statements about new relationships and targets. Okay. So this is off the top of my head. What I would say is, if your ex in our family wizard is saying, oh, this and this happened, just post. If it's it depends. I haven't used our family wizard in a while, so I don't remember how the whole system works, but just if you're worried about that, double check with your attorney if you have one, just to make sure you have the best strategy possible. And then just post the opposite. Not say you're a liar, but say, hey, transition happened. This is what happened. The kids were fine and no issues, and just counter document it. So, and on that, thank you guys for hanging out with me on this Tuesday. Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention, tomorrow, Alex Falcone from The Proper Person will be here to hang out on the show for the morning. So he will be here tomorrow. I might do some extra stuff tomorrow because it is a holiday. I haven't quite figured that out. But on that, I do want to say thank you so much to the channel members who helped make this happen, who click the button and become members. I noticed somebody earlier upgraded their level. So thank you so much for that. Guys, take care of yourself. Trust your gut, going back to the beginning part of this show. And we'll see you here tomorrow.